Well, I would really be uncomfortable talking about a mega site, if that's what we're
Yeah,
here
that's,
for.
yeah, that's what,
You know, it's just too early to be doing that. And I don't see where there'd be any benefit to the city or the county or any of the smaller cities to discuss this until it's farther along. That's where I'm at.
okay, why isn't it further along?
There's just steps that you have to take in government. There's different needs, different wants. There's the money angle, you know, where does the money come from? There's just a lot of things go into it, and we've had, what, 3 or 4 meetings about it. And I think things are progressing as well as they can.
Bob?
I mean, I don't have a problem talking. I'm not gonna speak specifically, but, you know, there's a lot of players in this process and although the meetings have gone reasonably well, I think there's probably, to be perfectly honest, there's probably some lack of trust by the parties, and I don't mean necessarily the county and the city, I mean maybe some of the other cities in this process, not knowing where the boundaries in the future will be. And so I guess where the city's at, we are fully supportive of pursuing that ramp wherever it may lie north of the existing Port Neal exit. I think we've all signed off on that. The chamber's not, which is a little bit of a concern from my standpoint, that we need to somehow get them on the board, because I think you're going to have a weaker argument about an exchange if you don't have the business community as a partner, even if it's a minor partner in the process. But I think we'll get there. I don't think it's an obstacle that's not going to get overcome. I think it will get overcome. You know, as we looked at that valley down there and how far we are away from most of the developments that's occurring, we just thought at this particular time we would support whatever went on down in that area, but probably not be a party to the actual agreement, because it's difficult for us to spend money outside of the boundaries. The only way you can technically do that is sales tax, and that'll be difficult for us to be able to do based upon the needs that we have at this particular time. And we will support the county and the other governments, depending on where and if we ever get a mega site. We'll certainly support that. Whether it ends up in Sioux City at the end of the day, or Sergeant Bluff, or Salix, that's a matter for down the road. Or if it stays out in the county, that doesn't seem to me to be a problem. As I stated in the first meeting we had a while back, is that, you know, any development down that area benefits all the parties. It doesn't just benefit the city of Sioux City, it benefits Sergeant Bluff and Salix and the county and us as well. So we support that, and as we grow the community, if we do further south, and as we run into things that we need to probably work a little closer with the county on for different types of agreement, we're willing to do that at that particular point in time. But, you know, right now, when we started, let me just give you a history. When we started Liberty, there was some antagonism because of the Port Neal exit, and we all understood that, and we overcame that obstacle. And there wasn't any money involved in the process, basically, at that particular point in time, because it would have replaced Port Neal. Mm-hmm. And then when that didn't happen, and the county still had some interest in Liberty Park, which I think they probably still do have some interest. I'm not sure to the degree that Larry and his board would have to address that better, but at least some development in that area. I won't say it's necessarily about the original boundaries. But there wasn't any funding to do any of that stuff. And then CF came along, which is a game changer, quite frankly, for the county, which you know, we're delighted with. And so we just looked at it and decided as a council that it's probably better to let the county take the lead and do the deal, and I think they probably will do that.
You know, when you say do the deal on
do the planning and those sort of things that you're gonna need to do to develop that area, whether it be a mega site or just development in that area, because most of the area that's going to be developed in the future is outside of all the boundaries of the different cities. And without some sort of a master plan, it's probably gonna be difficult to do that.
Well, this is one thing, when I talked to Larry about setting this up, that more than likely, I mean, there might be some other options. More than likely, this, if you had an industry, you'd have to provide, the city would more likely have to provide the water and probably for sure the sewer. I mean, that kind of thing. So, I mean, how, you would have to be a player.
Yeah, and
That
and we're certainly agreeable to that, and at that particular point in time, we'll have those discussions. But again, you know, Sergeant Bluff has water, and I'm not sure the capabilities of what Salix has today, but they probably have some capacity for sewer, depending on the size of the industry. So it probably, as I said in the meeting when we all got together a couple months ago, is that industry's gonna decide where they wanna be at the end of the day. Now, we have agreements down there with the existing industry that provides water and sewer, and we'll continue to provide those. But we also, as part of that, as you know, have annexation agreements that once we get there, they have to annex in. And if we provide water and sewer in that particular area for an industry south of our existing boundaries, but close to our water and sewer lines, or they're willing to pay some of the cost to attach, then we'll do the same deal and make them sign agreements for annexation.
I think you were probably both at this meeting this summer, that when Debbie Durham was here, and there was the talk about this issue. It sounded like, I went back and looked, it sounded like her preference was, because of the infrastructure already being there, it's kind of to build off Southbridge, perhaps, and is that not necessarily realistic anymore then?
Well, I think,
I'm hearing.
I don't know about him, I think it's very realistic. I think that's very realistic, but again, we can't necessarily extend that without an industry wanting it. We can't go put water and sewer outside of our boundaries without an agreement with an industry, or we shouldn't. I mean, there's no reason for us to go lay lots of water and sewer down there, and at the end of the day, the industry said, well, we'd sooner be in Salix or we'd sooner be in Sergeant Bluff, from our vantage point.
I think from the standpoint of having a site, and I understand what you're saying, but having a site identified and then you could mark it, and it's been, Debbie's real big in the certification, and there was actually, there was some application, I mentioned this, Larry, there's an application to have the certification application, I guess that's been withdrawn to her office. I'm trying to figure out the details of that, but anyway, before you would do any infrastructure, you would have to identify the site, so then you could, obviously show it to any prospective,
Well, first place, you can't identify a site without, under the certification process, without at least having options on the land.
Yeah, and I know that'd be your first thing, so how do you get to that? What's the next step to get to that point, I guess?
Well, I'll speak from the city side, from the land that appears that may be available, there's a couple, but from the land that appears to be available to make a mega site, it's predominant, well, it's more than that, it is in the county. And so that's why we've just decided to allow the county to take the lead role on that if they're willing to do that. And again, if a mega site's certified, I believe that you're looking at a couple thousand jobs. I mean, that's normally that size of a layout would be a big deal. So it'd be a big deal for all of us, and we're hoping that the county will continue to pursue that. But it's difficult for us to put money into a process that's outside of our boundaries.
Okay.
So I don't know, Larry, I mean, Larry's.
So if it's in your court, kind of, Larry, so to speak, I mean, how do you fund, options? I mean, have you got that far? I mean, in doing that, or?
There's been discussions on how to do it, and a financial plan, has been laid out.
Yeah.
But, and like Pop said, until you have those options, till you bring the parties to the table and you see that you can assemble this land. The thing that's really at the top of the pile is getting the new interchange done. And everybody's on board with that. And the county is, what are we gonna pick up, 50% of it or 60% of it or something?
Well,
like
no, you're picking up it's a weird formula, but roughly about 45% we're picking up our pro rata share of based on the population, so we're picking up probably about 42 in the other communities, and then the chamber picks up about 10, I think, right?
Okay. Yeah, I don't have the formula with me.
Yeah, I can check that out.
But that's
fine.
roughly the breakdown, yeah.
Okay. So, can you go forward until you get the interchange approved, or, I mean, or in the pipeline, I mean?
Sure.
Okay.
We can continue with what's going on and like Bob said, CF is a game changer. The county couldn't even be, consider doing something like this unless we had the tax revenue. Well, we
Yeah.
are going to have that, and by 2016, I think it is, the cash is gonna start flowing in. And in the meantime, if we can put the site together, we can bond for it,
Okay.
because we've got a way to pay for it.
I don't know if there's any, from a competitive standpoint, and I'm talking about statewide, any urgency. Debbie has made the point that right now there isn't such a site of that size, There is one, I think it's Burlington or somewhere in the east side that is kind of maybe in the same planning stages or maybe further along, I'm not sure. To get that kind of leg up, do you see that as important, to get it, down, get it going, or?
Well, when you started, you said about withdrawing an application. To my knowledge, there has
Yeah,
not been.
I
an
need to
application.
check on that, but she mentioned that when I talked to her the other day. I looked at my nose, I didn't know what she was talking about, so.
There was a cutoff date,
October or
yeah,
something.
1st of October or 15th. Well, there's another cutoff date in April. And really can we meet that? That's pretty optimistic, but certainly try.
Okay, so whatever this next date is, you think that is feasible, right? Or not, all right? Oh, just to clarify.
Well, you're dealing with a lot of parties.
Yeah.
So it's feasible from the county's perspective, but you have to get the other parties on board.
Do you have to have Sergeant Bluffs, Salix, you think,
No,
involved or not necessarily? Or-
Oh,
no?
they're definitely involved, Sergeant Bluff, Salix, Sioux
But I mean,
City
it's,
County.
yeah, so those are among the other parties?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Who else do you think? I mean, landowners, obviously. I
Well,
mean,
the landowners, that's the
yeah,
important.
that's,
So, what can I tell you besides that? I don't know.
okay. Do you see any, obviously, when you, not to dredge this up, but when you first started planning for Liberty, there was a lot of pushback. Do you think any of that is softened or, in general, I mean, when you talk about landowners or?
That's hard to say, and you're talking about a different area.
Yeah, and I understand
as
that.
well.
Yeah, I
And,
understand that, yeah.
It's just hard to discuss,
Yeah,
without letting the cat out of the bag, which I'm sure it's gonna come out of the bag anyway.
yeah. No, we don't
Not for
want
me,
to,
so-
we don't want to do, I mean, we do not want to identify, because we know
Yeah.
what that could do to, to go, any kind of negotiations, but yeah, I'm just kind of, if, obviously you have to have willing sellers and whether you think that's doable, I mean, that's kind of just wondering what you're sensing of it.
Right, and the county is now, or will be in the near future, in a financial position where we can invest in things, we can help the small communities, we can help Sioux City.
Yeah,
And like I say, that's gonna start probably about 2016.
okay.
gonna be nice to be on the county board, 4 or 5 years from now, because they're gonna have money to spend.
Okay, yeah. Have you, is there a certain amount that you have kind of budgeted for this, to try and put this together, from the county standpoint, or?
Well, the money comes in, it's gradual.
Yeah, I understand, yeah.
And,
But you, like, it would bond probably, like you said, yeah.
yeah, we could put 100% of it in there.
Okay.
I wouldn't wanna do that, because
Yeah.
I'd like a good portion of it to go for tax relief.
Yeah, yeah,
But the CF is a game changer. We've got an industry that's paying, a good amount in taxes, and that money can be used to create other industries, or create, additional development to assemble a tract of land, possibly for a mega site, to pay for an interchange. It's just, we're in a position we've never been in before.
Bob, you had mentioned earlier, like, obviously that's a very large site, when you talk about 1,000 acres and, things like a car factory or, 2,000 jobs. Is that something, is that something that's, that size of project realistic? Obviously you think so, but it's kind of.
Well, it's not out of the realm of reasonability. Certainly, they've located those type of industries, especially in the south lately, in a lot smaller communities in Sioux City. In fact, in some of them, not even in the communities. If you look at some of the, like the Toyota, I think it is, plant down in Mississippi and that.
Yeah, it's in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah, I've driven by it. It's in the middle of nowhere. So, I think it's within the realm of reasonability. It's a, there aren't gonna be that many of those type of sites in the United States. That's the reality.
Yeah.
And so would we like to have it happen in the Sioux City area for the Sioux City's benefit? Absolutely.
Because you're creating jobs, and high-paying jobs, so everyone benefits, all the taxing bodies.
Okay. And once you had someone like that interested, or even, then does it become an issue of, is annexation becoming an issue at that point, or potentially? Like you said,
I don't think so.
Okay. Do you think it would be annexed into some, or do you think it would stay in the county?
Like Bob said, a business is gonna decide whether they wanna be located in a city or outside a city.
Yeah.
Whether they can buy water or sewer or
Yeah.
what have you, for the lower tax rate,
Yeah.
that's a decision they make.
Okay. But obviously, if it goes, if you get them into the city, there's some incentives like the city could offer to
Oh, yeah,
help make.
there's job credits is a big one.
Yeah.
That the city can offer, a county can't offer.
Yeah.